is Encore.
Cool.
The stories behind the songs.
Thank you.
Here's iHeartRadio's Miles Galloway.
Well, on this week's episode, ahead of what might be one of the most highly anticipated halftime shows ever, I thought it would be worth brushing up on all things Usher. So let's do it. Peace up, A-Town down. I'm Miles Galloway, and this is the story of Usher's Yeah. And just so you know, I bought myself an Atlanta Braves hat just for this. I'm wearing it now to one side, naturally. Usher was born to entertain. It might be hard to believe, but this year marks the 30th anniversary of his debut album. That's right, Usher, who is still only 45, by the way, has really been doing this for 30 years. And while it was a little more than weird hearing Usher sing It's Only a Sexual Thing when he was breaking through with his single Can You Get With It at just 15 years old, he's always lived up to the king of R&B status that was given to him so early on. Usher was discovered at the age of 13 on television by famed record exec Reid, who wasted no time signing him to his LaFace label. He then released his self-titled debut album in 1994 and achieved respectable numbers, but some felt he was a little too young to be waxing about sexual relations. Although he wasn't the songwriter on those early tracks, they can mostly be credited to a member of 90s R&B stalwarts Jodeci, which kind of makes it weirder, don't you think? In any case, Usher's ascent truly began 3 years later with the release of his second album, the game-changing My Way, which catapulted him from babyface R&B up-and-comer to bona fide casanova. He told Much Music's Master T at the time.
Out there, I decided to do it my way. L.A. and Babyface and Jermaine Dupri just asked for my input on this album to do or to give a direction as to where I wanted to go, and I did it. As a producer, I came up as a rapper. As I did a little rap on the album, but that's just another part of me. Just definitely, showing that I'm versatile and have versatility. But on this album, man, I call it my way definitely because I did it my way.
Thanks to working with heavyweight songwriters and producers like Jermaine Dupri and Babyface, My Way sold over 7 million copies in the US alone. But even more importantly, it helped usher in a new era of R&B artists who were embraced by pop's mainstream. Songs like You Make Me Wanna and Nice and Slow dominated MTV and pop airplay, crossing over and challenging teen pop's simultaneous rise. At the age of just 20, he was winning Billboard and Soul Train awards for his music, but he was also making a name for himself as one of the best dancers in the business, taking cues from his idol, Michael Jackson. He was also earning a reputation as an actor, lighting up the big screen in box office hits like She's All That and The Faculty. Usher had really become a triple threat that had earned him the nickname Mr. Entertainment. He told Much his Nam Kiwanuka,
"It is what I am. That's why they call me Mr. Entertainment. Yeah. It's what I do. I don't sleep. Sometimes I don't eat. But I'm a slave to the rhythm."
Usher was flying high, but when he had his next album set to go, he hit a snag. His third album, All About You, was set to come out on Halloween, October 31st, 2000, but after a number of songs leaked on Napster and his label LaFace went dormant, Usher had to regroup.
It leaked on the net.
It didn't only leak on the net, it leaked on radio. I think, and that was really people being enthused, by jumping on the record. I appreciated it, but at the same time, I'm like, you know what, this is not the way that I want to, reposition myself. Right. The plan is to do better than I did last time. So there's a step-by-step process. Right. The same thing we did last album. Right. So I pulled the record back, and
he was moved over to Arista Records and had to rework the album. Because of all the turmoil, fans would have to wait almost an entire year for the next Usher album. Instead of scrapping his album altogether, Usher chose to remove some of the leaked songs and replace them with new ones. He renamed the album 8701, a reference to the year he first sang in church and the year of the album's release, and released it on August 7th, 2001. Working with trailblazing producers like the Neptunes, who we've mentioned quite a few times on this series Encore so far, and Jammin' Lewis, who brought some nuance to his music, Usher showed he could evolve as an artist while giving his fan base what they wanted. Upon its release, 8701 was a smash hit, outselling My Way and establishing Usher as one of the biggest stars on the planet. Songs like You Got It Bad and You Remind Me both topped the Hot 100 for multiple weeks. The album also won Usher his first 2 Grammys, both for Best Male R&B Vocal Performance, in back-to-back years.
You'll see it. You'll get the idea of it, and that's what the album represents. 8701 is growth. 1987, I found music. I was 9 years old, and I've grown in time. In 2001, it's growth.
Around this time, Usher started dating Chili Thomas, better known as C in R&B trio TLC. Sharing a label, the two got to know each other over the years, but made their romance public in 2001. The two became inseparable, and all of a sudden, they were one of music's power couples. Usher took advantage of the extra media attention, building his brand and making TV appearances on shows like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Mad TV, and Punk'd. He was everywhere. But having finished touring 8701 in 2002, Usher felt the need to get back to music, and this time he wanted to leave an even bigger mark. When it came time to begin working on his fourth album, Usher was hesitant to work with multiple producers this time around. Initially, he wanted to keep things tight with his go-to collaborator, Jermaine Dupri. But he knew the only way he could grow was to expand the music. He then decided to find tastemakers who knew, quote, how to interpret R&B from a jazz standpoint, an old-school throwback standpoint, a new-school standpoint, a traditional classic standpoint, he would tell VH1. And so along with Jermaine Dupri, he brought in Jam and Lewis again, as well as Brian Michael Cox, Just Blaze, Dre and Vidal, and even his half-brother, James Lackey. Usher gave Much Music's Nam Kiwanuka a taste of what to expect.
I will tell you that it's motivated by, the success of the last one, in my career. And every artist's career, what they do is they set out to make a record that was better than the last one. This one, I plan on doing some of the same things. Some of the things that I know that work, I bring those things back in the album, based off of the producers that I work with, the creativity. But I plan on becoming more so involved as a producer on this one. The first one, I sort of allowed someone else to dictate which way I should go. Second one, I became more involved and gave my ideas. The third one, I began to write and coordinate and produce and orchestrate. This album, I plan on orchestrating, producing, definitely being the executive producer of it, but also being listed as a producer, writer.
Usher wanted this album to be more personal than ever. He saw it as an opportunity to spill secrets, which is where the title Confessions came from. He would tell MTV News, all of us have our Pandora's boxes or skeletons in our closets. I let a few of them out, I've got a lot to say. I've got a lot of things and stuff built in me that I just want to let go of. And over the better part of 2003, Usher and his expansive pool of producers recorded 40 tracks for his next album. But there was a problem. Usher presented songs to Arista, but the album was rejected by the label. Not only that, but Usher's label boss Reid had reservations about the R&B star's appeal to audiences. In a 2016 interview with Revolt TV, producer Jermaine Dupri said, quote, when we first started making Confessions, we went to Reid's house. He told us that Usher wasn't interesting enough. He was like, he makes hit records, but he wasn't an interesting artist at that point. Like, people didn't know nothing about him and what his life was about. At that point, he didn't feel like people were holding on to Usher. With the rise of Justin Timberlake's solo career hogging the pop and R&B sphere, Usher had competition, and his label believed he was in the shadow of the former NSYNC star. Both the media and fans pit Usher against JT, and all of a sudden the two were caught in a feud. Usher cleared the air, though, about any potential beef with JT when he appeared at Much Music in the summer of 2004.
Hey Usher, despite all the BS that's been going around about you and Justin Timberlake, do you think you two will eventually collaborate on something?
I hope so. I really do respect Justin Timberlake for his entertainment, man. I think that everything coming his way he deserves. I think that he is one of the greatest in this time, and proved himself, through NSYNC, and then, taking a step out to do a solo project. It's very hard and got a lot of love. If the fans want it, then I do it. Do you guys want to see me and Justin do a record?
With Justin? Yeah.
On record, I'll put it out there and say I'll be the first person to acknowledge that I think it'd be a great idea, and that I got nothing but love for Justin. I respect him. They should never make a comparison between the two of us, because there isn't. He works hard as an entertainer to do what he does, and I do.
Good words.
Yeah, man.
Great words.
Still, LA wanted more out of his artist, so he told Usher and Dupri to go back into the studio and record some bangers, but Usher was feeling dejected. He told MTV News, I'll say this, going back in the studio after we'd supposedly finished the record was the hardest part. I had to get re-motivated. I felt like we finished the album. I'm turning it in. Reid listened to it, I listened to it, and we all just said, you know what? There's like 1 or 2 more records that we just gotta get. Usher needed a hit, and he would find one with some help from the king of crunk. Usher and Jermaine Dupri went to Los Angeles in search of a hit. They met with crunk rapper and producer Lil Jon, who was pumping out hits at an alarming rate. Lil Jon told MTV he needed a single. They had Burn. Burn was hot, but they needed the first powerful monster. That's when I came in. Lil Jon had the perfect song for Usher, but there was a hitch. Jon had been hired by Jive Records to produce some tracks for fellow rapper Mystical, who picked a few of them and then offered the leftovers to his label mate, Petey Pablo. Petey took one of the beats and released a track called Freak-a-Leak, the same beat Jon wanted to offer Usher. He wasn't about to give up this song that was catching fire in the clubs just so Usher could use it. This left Lil Jon in a bind and forced him to scramble and compose a new beat for Usher. Sean Garrett, who co-wrote Yeah with Lil Jon, told Sway about how Usher almost turned it down.
I mean, he wasn't really the biggest fan of it because it was partly because the album was already done. You know what I'm saying? And they already had the whole concept of Confessions, and you know, they had picked the singles. Like Burn was supposed to be the original first single off of Confessions, and then this wild ass song came out of nowhere, and from someone who he didn't know, and you know, JD was kind of like, what's this, like? You know what I mean? But it wound up it was definitely God's gift, and it was meant to be, because we went through so many trials and tribulations of before that record even came out, from the same track being recorded by Petey Pablo.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he actually
Freak-a-Leak, right?
Freak-a-Leak. Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah.
So he put his version out before we even got a chance to put that out, and then we had to go redo the track. You know, me and Lil Jon went down to Miami and had to go redo the whole thing. And
Meanwhile, Usher was happy with a song he'd already made with Jermaine Dupri and Brian Michael Cox, a heavy slow jam called Burn. He didn't want to push his fans outside of their comfort zone with such an in-your-face song like Yeah, but the label wanted something hot, which they could make history with, and they'd found it. In the southern parts of the US, crunk was taking over the clubs in the early 2000s, a hip-hop subgenre with faster tempos, layered synthesizers, 808 bass lines, and hyped call and response vocals. Crunk was a perfect way for Usher to try and prove that he had what it takes to be the star his label wanted him to be. Yeah found Usher and Lil Jon creating a sound of their own they would call Crunk and B. Jon explained to MTV that Crunk and B was R&B songs that get you crunk, make you want to wild out. And wilding out was exactly what Yeah would make people do. With an infectious synth riff and club banging beat, the song became an undeniable earworm for anyone hearing it for the first time. But to give it even more of a punch, they invited rapper Ludacris to add a verse, complimenting Jon's sporadic hype calls of "Yeah, okay." As the year was coming to an end, the track was finished and Jon leaked it to DJs across the US, who picked it up and immediately started playing it in clubs and on the radio. But as 2004 arrived, Usher was still set on releasing Burn as the lead single from Confessions, having already completed the music video. The label, however, felt differently. Excitement for Yeah had spread like wildfire, and they decided to release it as the first single. In an interview with VH1, Usher boiled down the song's success. The collaboration of these three great energies in hip-hop music and R&B made Yeah what it is. I want hip-hop fans to love it. I want R&B fans to love it. That's why Yeah has so many different elements. I'm conducting myself as an artist would in everything that I do. I try to think outside the box. Despite thinking outside the box, though, Usher was about to have the biggest commercial hit of his career. The record label's decision to release Yeah paid off, and within weeks of its January 10th release, the song would reach #1 in almost every country around the world, including Canada and the US, where it topped Billboard's Hot 100 for 12 consecutive weeks. In fact, it would only eventually be dethroned by, you guessed it, Usher's next single, Burn, the song Usher originally wanted to release first. The two songs would eventually rank first and second on Billboard's Hot 100 singles of 2004. I guess Usher and his label both turned out to be right then? Yeah would continue to build steam throughout 2004, becoming a ubiquitous smash hit across radio clubs and stations like MTV and Much Music. Usher had proven to Reid that he could be interesting and the kind of star that could cross over into the mainstream with a mega hit that reached R&B, hip-hop, and pop audiences all at the same time. Yeah took home Best Rap Sung Collaboration at the 2005 Grammy Awards, where it was also nominated for Best R&B Song and Record of the Year. The music video, directed by Toronto's own Director X, then known as Little X, also won big, earning Usher Best Male Video and Best Dance Video at the MTV VMAs, and Favorite International Artist at the Much Music Video Awards. The now iconic video features Usher, Lil Jon and Luda dancing through lasers, popping bottles and getting social in the club with the ladies. Usher told Australian outlet Video Hits,
I mean, I don't know. It was actually, that idea was not one of mine.
Right.
Me and Little X, Mr. X, we split the responsibility of making the video. We both directed it.
Mr. X, so who's
Little X.
Little X.
Little X, but he's no longer Little X. He's Mr.
Right.
X now. But, you know, he had an idea, concept of what he wanted to shoot, how he wanted to shoot. He had a few vignettes he wanted to shoot in. You know, I want to do green lasers, blue lasers, and just basically give you the spaces to perform. Don't choreograph anything. I want you to just go in the middle of go in front of the camera and just perform. But I'm like, okay, but what about the story? You know, there's a whole story to tell you. No. Well, that's this club. And I said, okay, I got just the club. We wanted to come to Atlanta. Didn't get it in Atlanta, but we recreated a club that felt, you know, similar. And, you know, kind of painted a picture.
2 months after Yeah dropped, Usher would release Confessions, which would go on to become his career-defining album, selling more than 15 million copies, making it the best-selling R&B album of the 21st century by a male artist. Upon its release, Confessions would require a lot of explaining from Usher, who many thought was airing dirty laundry about his breakup with Chili. Both he and eventually Chili would deny the songs were about their relationship, and collaborator Jermaine Dupri would later confess it was he who cheated on his partner and impregnated his mistress. But you know how the internet works. The rumor mill ran rampant for years. I, for one, always believed in Usher's innocence. When it comes to throwbacks from the 2000s, there aren't many songs as instantly recognizable as Usher's Yeah. On an appearance of BET 106 and Park, Usher shared that even he didn't expect it to be the monster that it was.
And we did, and had it. And, you know, surprisingly, I mean, we all knew it was going to be a huge record, but we had no idea it would be this.
Yeah, people are loving this record.
Great song.
Lil Jon was even more modest about his expectations in an interview with Billboard, saying, I'm still in awe of the fact that the record was as big as it is. I mean, it's still getting played every night in the clubs 10 years later. I just feel blessed to be a part of a record that made history. 20 years after its release, Yeah is still one of the biggest songs of the 2000s. The song has over 1 billion streams on streaming services, while the video is creeping closer to 1 billion views on YouTube. I guess people really do take that and rewind it back. It's found a place in music's contemporary landscape too, influencing the look of Zayn's video for his 2016 single Like I Would, which unsurprisingly was a video also directed by Director X, who told Entertainment Weekly, if I could go back in time, I would have made Yeah all laser. So this video for Like I Would is my chance to do it. Naturally, in more recent times, the danceability of Yeah inspired its own TikTok dance challenge, a true sign of its bangerness. It also inspired Florida mom Hailey Stevens to make a viral video recreating that famous synth riff with her squeaky oven door, much to the embarrassment of her daughter. Oven Mom, as she calls herself, has amassed over 10 million views on TikTok for that 10-second clip. Truly amazing. But even Usher's getting a slice of TikTok's love for his song after he jumped on a remix of Jungkook's Standing Next to You. The two of them appeared in a follow-up clip doing choreo from the Yeah video. 56 million views that one's racked up. And of course, how could anyone have missed Yeah carrying the ads for Usher's performance at the Super Bowl 58 halftime show? Watching those ads was like living through 2004 all over again. The song was everywhere leading up to the big game, including this podcast. But I mean, when you got the beat that makes the booty go, of course you're going to use it every chance you get. I'm Miles Galloway, and that was the story of Usher's Yeah on Encore. New episodes every Thursday.
Encore is an iHeartRadio Canada podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Download the iHeartRadio app for more great podcasts just like these.